Higher Definition would like to thank everyone for supporting us as we round into our 14th year serving the community of not only Rock Hill, the state of South Carolina, North Carolina, but we have far reach and influence. Please enjoy, like, and share our spotlights as we try to illuminate and spotlight positive people and opportunities out in our community. Thank you.
My name is Letron Brantley. I am from a little town on the eastern side of South Carolina called Marion. My family, family background is very, very hardworking. My grandfather, he worked a lot in construction, as well as had a big, huge garden that he basically worked as a part of the providing for our family, and he ended up having all of his family, my mother and all of my aunts and uncles, working in that garden in order to be able to provide for the family. On my father's side, my grandfather, I didn't get a chance to meet him as he died when my father was 10 years old. But my grandmother, she was one of the matriarchs, or basically the primary matriarch in my family, and she ended up instilling a lot of great values in me as I was growing up. She always had an eye on me while I was in high school, because she worked in the high school cafeteria, and I could never get away with anything. So she ended up making sure that I stayed on the straight and narrow path. My parents are obviously products of both of those sides, and they definitely gave me the guidance, and whether it be soft or hard, to make sure I hit the straight path, and allowed me to be who I am today. I'm married to a beautiful wife, Pam, and I have 3 beautiful children. My oldest, Nathan, my daughter's in the middle, she's Jasmine, and I have a baby boy, I call him, my 8-year-old, he is Isaiah. What motivates me is my family, being able to provide for them and being able to teach them and prepare them for the future. I like to make sure that everything that I've learned in terms of the wisdom that I was taught by my predecessors, my ancestors, things that have passed down from the people that I even never met, to my grandparents, to my parents, my great aunts, and try to pass as much of that wisdom down to my kids as possible. And that motivates me to do better, to do well, and be able to guide them in the right path. So what sparks my creativity is challenge. I really like to seek opportunities for problem solving, whether that be in technology, whether that be in finance, or even in life. If there's situations where I feel I can be of some value, I strive to be able to help in any way I can, especially for myself. Any challenges that come my way, I work to identify that problem and see if I can make that situation better or cause a different outcome from it to where I can actually be of a benefit. So that type of challenge sparks my interest. I've been a musician 30 plus years. Music is a big part of my development, I think, as a human being, especially as a creative human being. It works a different side of my brain that allows me to be able to think in situations that are not as conventional. It gives me a lot of creative juice. Sometimes when I'm working on a situation, music is an outlet that allows me to be able to reassess and possibly even come up with a different solution. I love jazz. I've played a lot jazz, especially jazz from the early days of the music, such as the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, in the vein of Charlie Parker, John Coltrane, Miles Davis, and I still perform to this day for a lot of events that are typically allow me to be in the company of a lot of individuals that are very influential within the community. My business is Prescott Capital Solutions, and my business is to help small businesses, small to medium-sized businesses, get the funding that they need in order to start, grow, and scale their business. I started the business out of a need for myself as I was involved in various real estate investing projects. And as I was going through that process, one of the things that I saw and thought was very key to many of these transactions is the funding and the different intricacies in how that funding was attained. And as a result, I decided to concentrate more on that aspect, specifically for real estate. But then, after speaking with a few more businesses and some of the challenges that they were having in obtaining funding, I decided to expand my scope to include servicing businesses, especially startup businesses, because in our community we have a lot of founders and people who have visions, but in many cases do not have the funds in order to bring their vision to fruition. So I wanted to be able to provide an avenue for those individuals to get the funding that they needed in order to start and be successful. If I were to be able to speak to my 18-year-old self, the advice that I would give him would be to always stay focused, because focus is one of those things that will allow you to be able to press through any challenges or any obstacles. Sometimes when I was younger and I've been faced with challenges, it's easy to say, you know what, this is not working, let me try something else. But in many cases, if you just focus, you can actually press through and conquer those challenges as they appear. As a young kid, many times, 18 years old, I was practically a man, starting out, young man. It's important to be able to use that youth in order to be able to stay the course and take advantage of setting things in motion, planting foundations at that time. So if I had to speak to my 18-year-old self, I would tell him to stay focused, stay the course, and ride the ride. Probably my favorite quote of scripture would be the one that is very popular, Philippians 4:13, which is, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That was a scripture that my mom always quoted to me to know basically where my help comes from, where my foundation lies, where the rock is that I can lean on, and gives me that strength to be able to accomplish anything. And I wanted to just make sure that in my life, as I move forward, that I always keep that in the back of my mind. And not only that, be able to share that with my kids, because the world is tough, the world can be hard, the world can be cruel, but if you always keep God in your purview, you will always be able to succeed. My final thoughts would be, let's educate our young people on the things that we have learned over time. I've always appreciated my parents and grandparents for telling me the aspects of being able to get ahead and how to do it, basically by getting an education. So now that I have an education, I'm able to teach my kids things that my parents and grandparents didn't know. And so where we are right now, as we're still in this transition of being able to close the wealth gap in our society and in our country, I think we should always impart that wisdom that we have learned into our kids, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to, as a people, generate that wealth in our community that has been prevalent in many communities since the dawn of time. So that would be my advice. Let's continue to educate ourselves, let's continue to educate our kids, and let's continue to plant seeds of the proliferation of that knowledge to further generations.